The new issue of Philosophy Now is here. Did you guys get yours in the mail yet? Look, Yanni's on the cover. You know, it's kind of sick, isn't it, when the philosophers of the world start trying to sell magazines by using Yanni as a cover model. Look at this expression. They handed him a brain and they said, "Okay, Yanni, what is it?" And as you can see, he's not so sure, is he? Hey, happy Easter. Can I say that yet? What time did the J-Man rise from the dead? Somewhere around now. Well, whenever it was, I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and we're celebrating with 2 movies featuring death from the great Toby Hooper, The Funhouse and Poltergeist. And anyhow, I've noticed lately that Philosophy Now is getting a little risque, because look at this lead article. Immanuel Kant and prostitution. Naughty, naughty. It reminds me of that time they had the article, Schopenhauer, Did He Have an Ankle Tattoo? Remember that one? And look here on page 12. Look at this. The philosopher as lover. They ought to be playing this stuff down. It's bad enough when you have all those philosophy professor groupies hanging around after class trying to cop a feel on some guy's tweed jacket elbow patch. But here you have an emeritus professor of philosophy at the City University of London trying to refute positivism just to pick up girls. It's kind of sick, isn't it? Especially when you think that the word emeritus means he's probably, what, 90 years old? But then he's from London. You know, all those university guys in England, they do creepy things under their London fog raincoats, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. But you know, we all have our favorite parts of Philosophy Now, but I have to admit, I always go straight to the ads in the back. The Officers Association residential home ad in South Devon, facing over the Tyne estuary. Applicants should normally be between 65 and 80 years of age, have held a commission, and should not be in need of special nursing care. Yeah. How about this ad for pensions for the Gurkhas? You don't find this in every magazine. They want you to send in money for the elderly soldiers who live on Mount Everest. They want you to give money for epilepsy, brain tumors, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, all ailments which do tend to hamper the career of a philosopher. And of course, we have the new erotic catalog. A bit naughty, because one thing the English philosopher needs is porno. I don't know about you, though, but I've read some fascinating stuff in Philosophy Now, like Does God Exist? Remember that one? Yeah. You know what? I read that article, but I can't remember whether he does or does not exist. What was the ending of that thing? Are there such things as natural rights? That was a funny one. Is there a basic good in the innate nature of man? Now, that was one 3-day drunken party, that article. We had a bunch of Foucault freaks come over, and then the David Hume people got all ticked off and tried to leave. One of those Foucault guys threw a Lowenbrow on the David Hume guy. It was so cool. And speaking of wild nights, we're going to get started with The Funhouse, directed by the great Toby Hooper. It's your basic tale of horny teenagers who decide to spend the night inside a funhouse. But a horny mutant carnival freak has something unsavory going on with the fortune teller under the floorboards, and he's not too happy when he finishes a tad early, if you know what I mean, and the bodies start dropping. Let's wait and do those drive-in totals at the next break. Roll the film. Do you guys read Philosophy Now? Do you know what I'm talking about? Because I'm working on an article for him now. You know, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Well, I'm doing one, cogito ego sum, I think, therefore I'm a frozen waffle. Cogito ego sum.
Hi, I'm Rusty, the Monstervision mail girl. It's not an easy job, especially when Joe Bob says something really annoying, and I have to deliver 20 times as many letters from Monstervision viewers. But don't worry, I work out 5 times a week to make sure I can handle anything you want to send my way. Come visit me at Monstervision website, tnt.turner.com/Monstervision, and I'll show you what I mean.
See Rusty deliver the Monstervision fan mail to Joe Bob Briggs every Saturday night on TNT. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and the Funhouse on TNT.
The great thing about these low-budget Toby Hooper films is that they're all grainy and kind of jumpy. So if you were watching this at a drive-in in the early 80s, you might start thinking, you know what, this could have actually been made by a maniac. All horror films are better if they're grainy and choppy. Did you notice how it said introducing Elizabeth Berridge? She plays Amy, our heroine, who's sneaking out with her low-life gas station attendant boyfriend, Buzz. But I wonder how Elizabeth Berridge feels about that. For the rest of her life, people will say to her, "Hey, I didn't know you were in the Funhouse. Cool." Elizabeth Berridge was great as Mozart's wife in Amadeus. Remember her running around going, "Wolfie, Wolfie." And then she played the butch female cop on the John Larroquette show. It was a weird career choice for a cutie like her, but I guess she needed the money. And now that's over, so Elizabeth, wherever you are, drop us a line. Let us know what you're doing. Maybe you could do a TNT original or something. And remember the motto of all struggling actresses over the age of 35, there's always the Lifetime Network, right? Okay, let's find out what the old hag was trying to tell us. I don't mean Elizabeth was an old hag. I mean the crone in the movie, what she was trying to tell. Oh, the drive-in totals. I promised you the drive-in totals. We have 5 dead bodies, 2 breasts, which we won't be showing, mutant farm animals, strangling, stabbing, shooting, hanging, impaling, drooling, axe to the head, crowbar to the head, electrocution, mutant grinding, sideshow stripping, exhaust fan food. 2.5 stars. Check it out, and I'll be hanging here with you throughout the evening. Roll it. God is watching you. He hears everything. If God is watching you, how does he hear everything? He's either watching or listening, right? That was technically the old crone. All good horror movies have at least one old crone. This one has a couple of old crones. The old crone is there to remind you what your girlfriend is eventually going to look like. That's why she's so scared. You know, there are a couple of you out there who've followed me throughout my career. I know that because I see you lurking around in the bushes outside my bedroom. So you may know about the Find That Flick contest I used to run in the newspaper. Well, we've added it to the Monstervision website, and I could waste your time explaining all the details of it, but just check it out. Test your horror flick knowledge and win a cheesy prize. Go to tnt.com/Monstervision and look for Find That Flick. And stop following me throughout my career. You're really starting to get on my nerves, okay?
Visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and the Funhouse on TNT.
You know, at first I thought Madame Zena was the same person as Marco the Magnificent, that Zena was that guy in drag. But it turns out it's just Sylvia Miles. And that's William Finley as the booze-swilling Marco. He used to be a big Brian De Palma favorite. He starred in Brian's musical Phantom of the Paradise. Remember that one? But what are we talking about Brian De Palma for? Let's talk about Toby Hooper, director of this flick. And, of course, the brilliant Texas Chainsaw Massacre was his first one. Toby's from Texas, and the man seems to be most at home making movies about backwoods sickos. In fact, I think the most effective scenes in the flick we're watching now are when it slips into that world a little bit. I won't give anything away. But after he made Chainsaw, he made the Gator flick Eaten Alive, also known as Legend of the Bayou, and about 4 other names because they could never quite get the marketing campaign right, starring Neville Brand as a motel owner who likes to feed his guests to the gators out back. Good movie, which only got released in like 3 theaters. So he took on TV. He directed the Stephen King miniseries Salem's Lot, and that did pretty well. So Universal hired him to do his first major studio movie, which was this one, The Funhouse, and that did okay. And then Steven Spielberg, who was a big fan of Chainsaw, hired him to do Poltergeist, but everybody thought Spielberg actually directed Poltergeist. We'll talk more about that later when we show Poltergeist tonight. And even though the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which Toby directed in '86, is also pretty brilliant, even though I'm in it, lately he's been doing TV again, and the occasional flick that comes and goes, like The Mangler, he did that, which is about a laundry folding machine that's possessed by the devil, which doesn't sound half bad, but he's not really tapping into the southern psyche like he was so good at. He's got a movie coming out this year called The Sacrifice. So maybe that'll bring back the crazy Texan we know and love. I hope so. One thing I got to give him, he's stuck to the horror flick. He's never tried to get all serious on us and do movies about the plight of his ancestors or the atrocities committed against the natives of some dang place. The man does killer laundry machines, you know, my kind of guy. Okay, let's get back to The Funhouse. You know, why is it when you read a bio of a movie guy, they act like it's some tragedy whenever he does something on TV? It's like, oh, you heard about Joe Blow, didn't you? He's doing television. Maybe he likes doing television. Maybe he's tired of working for 3 years on one movie that the studio may decide to not even release. You know, I buy into that stuff, and I do TV. I'm on TV. I'm so enlightened all of a sudden. I've said something that's like made me a more intelligent person. Somebody slapped me. You know, there just aren't that many things that are scary anymore, are there? Fortunately, one of them is our Monstervision website, which is where we put the viewer mail we're too chicken to actually put on TV. Did you people have mothers that write this stuff? Good grief. You can also check out the weekly Playmate, provided your taste in centerfolds runs to scaly mutants and saber-toothed vixens. Just head on over to tnt.turner.com/Monstervision, and when you get there, do me a favor, okay? Keep it in the ballpark area of borderline psychotic. Don't go into that other zone, all right? We got kids logging on. Some of them are already mutating.
Visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and the Funhouse on TNT.
Well, I don't know if that guy is really a carnival barker, but he seems pretty authentic to me. You will scream with terror. You will beg for release. I used to go to the Arkansas State Fair just to watch those carnies. And I really did sneak into the girly show, strip show, whatever you call it. I think it accounts for my attitude toward women today. Women that old and fat should never be naked. Anyway, the same guy plays all the barkers in this movie, Kevin Conway, doing a pretty good job. And while the carnival closes down, why don't we open up a little mail in our weekly installment of Joe Bob's Advice to the Hopeless. And to deliver that mail is someone I'd pay to see in a tent, if you know what I mean. Rusty, the TNT mail girl. So what do you got going on for Easter tomorrow, Rusty? You got your bunny there. You going on a little egg hunt? Or...
Yeah, that's right. I'm going on an egg hunt.
Can I be the Easter bunny and play hide the egg with you?
You know, you're going to get fired one of these days.
Yeah, but I'm going to have a good time when I get fired.
And what are you doing for Easter?
Well, you know, every year I cook a ham. And I have the church group over. We have a little brunch.
Nice try. Here's an email. It's from Aaron Hawley, somewhere out in cyberspace.
Be nice to people who compliment your bunny. Joe Bob, your on-air personality really grates me sometimes, especially when you show up with the Confederate flag. As a black American, the flag and what it represents is repulsive to me. If you promise not to wear that shirt again, I'll continue to watch the show and support the sponsors who pay the bills to keep you on air. I watch your show because, one, I enjoy the movies, even the turkeys, and two, I once had a job as a drive-in projectionist and can identify with your drive-in report. My family and I love to ski, but also go to the drive-in regularly during the summer months since we can't ski then. Keep up the good work. Just keep off the shirt, and all will be well. Aaron Holly. You know, every time I wear that shirt, I get angry letters. And this is one of the nicer ones. Of course, I get nice letters, too, that say, where can I buy one of them shirts? That's a cool shirt. But why is it that when I wear my shirt with the American flag on it, I get ripped for desecrating the American flag? But when I wear the shirt with the Confederate flag on it, they don't say you're desecrating the Confederate flag. They say, you're celebrating the Confederate flag, right? It's just a couple of gall-darn flags. I'm not making any statement. I do appreciate the insight into your family hobbies, though, Aaron. Skiing and drive-ins. I didn't quite follow that, but you can't go wrong with that combo, skiing and drive-ins, even though I'm kind of confused because skiing's a daytime thing and drive-in movies are a nighttime thing, but I'll let you work that out.
They have night skiing now.
They have night... Can't you see I'm trying to belittle this guy's letter? That doesn't help to say they have night
Sorry,
skiing.
but it is possible that they ski at night.
All right. You think the reason he doesn't go to the drive-in in the winter is because he's out night skiing?
Maybe.
Okay, Aaron, you win. You're like a great guy. I shouldn't wear the shirt. And, I'm not making any promises on that, though, because it was given to me. It's like from some guy. But, you know, when was the last time you got any hate mail?
I don't think I've ever gotten any.
Well, then try not to take away what little joy I can eke out of reading the hate mail, okay?
to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and the Funhouse on TNT.
And so commenced the many scenes of the four teens wandering around in the dark. I can never see a dang thing inside that funhouse. Maybe I need to turn up the brightness on my TV, you know, but we work at TNT, so whatever copy we're watching is probably as good as it's gonna get, right? What if you're out in the woods somewhere in a cabin with a 16-inch black and white Admiral? What are you seeing? Nothing, I'll tell you. And speaking of things you can't see, the TNT High Sheriffs did a little scissoring a while back. I forgot to point this out earlier. There was a scene in there where the kids smoke a little Arkansas polio weed, which is where the bright idea of spending the night in the funhouse comes in. And sometimes I feel the High Sheriffs, they miss out on little opportunities to educate when they cut out a scene like that. Since these type movies so often contain messages like drugs, fornication, and not minding your daddy will cause the evil forces of nature to come down on you big time. All right, let's see exactly how that's going to happen. Go. Because what did we learn from the death of the fortune teller? Thou shalt not drink, prostitute thyself, or wear a garter belt over the age of 50, or thou shalt be killed by a pizza-faced guy in a Frankenstein mask, right? All right, if you're going to write into us here at Monstervision and share your gripes, your opinions, whatever, and you're a woman under 140 pounds, single, and you don't have any strong opinions about any of the most common vices that men have, then I want you to use my home address because it's quicker. So just send those letters. What? I cleared this. I can do this. I'm telling you, we had a 3-hour meeting about this. It's not an attempt to get nookie on TV. Well, you don't have to use that word. Look. All right, look, I'm going to have to get back to you later. But meanwhile, just keep writing to us at 1010 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318, and emailing us at monstervision@turner.com. I like Superfly. What are you saying about Superfly? Why do you use that word? What's the implication there?
Visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and the Funhouse on TNT.
He's harmless once he's been fed. Great monster face, huh? Of course, it was designed by Rick Baker, who only does every movie these days with serious monster makeup in it. He didn't build the mask, though. The hands-on stuff was done by Craig Reardon, but Rick was the guy who came up with the cleft head idea. You remember in the Freak Show how the baby in the formaldehyde had a cleft head? And there was a cow with a cleft palate and another cow with 2 faces? It's all kind of thematically linked. If you really want to put it all together, you remember the carnies in the parking lot telling the story about the guy having sex with the cow? I'm not going to hit you over the head with this. Just think about it, okay? All right, back to the flick. Because what kind of teacher would I be if I just spelled everything out for the audience? If I just came right out and suggested that maybe the cow is that kid's mother. You know? Yuck, right? Yuck. All Toby Hooper's movies are about genetics.
Joe Bob doesn't get nearly as much hate mail as people think he gets. I know because I'm Rusty, the Monstervision mail girl, and most of the letters I see are almost positive. I'm not counting the ones from TNT programming executives, because that's really not mail. Those are memos. Anyway, I do see your letters, and I do love every one of them. So come visit us at the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision, or contact us the old-fashioned way at 1010 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318. You can even email us at monstervision@turner.com. Try to avoid phrases like lame, no-talent donkeys behind. You can't imagine how Joe Bob overreacts to those.
See Rusty deliver the Monstervision fan mail to Joe Bob Briggs every Saturday night on TNT. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and the Funhouse on TNT.
How about that drool and snot hanging off the monster's face? Ugh. One thing Toby Hooper does well is drool and snot. But most of his movies are remembered for one great image. In the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, for example, it was when Pam gets hung on that meat hook. And in the Funhouse, of course, it's that great shot of the axe to the head of Richie. played by Miles Chapin. And why does he get that accidental axe to the head? Because he's a geek. We have covered this before at great length. Carl Jung's rules of victimization, alcohol, drugs, sex, thievery, disregard for authority, and being a geek. And I believe Liz is dead. We didn't really get to see what was happening there, but I'm sure that giant 90-mile-an-hour rotor wasn't just incidental. Although you never know, because this flick was filled with production problems, and they were rewriting the script as they went along, which may explain why the little brother just kind of wanders around, never really does anything. And the fortune teller, remember she told Elizabeth Barrage that a tall, dark stranger will change her life? Well, that could have been the monster, but the monster's a blonde, so it doesn't make sense. All in all, the script here is pretty much a mess, but it's time for all-out Elephant Man foo, which is all we care about, right? So roll it. Exciting conclusion 2, Funhouse. Having that psycho father say that the baby in the formaldehyde was the monster's twin brother, Tad. That was supposedly a last-minute script addition by Toby Hooper, but I love that. Not the whole twin brother thing, but the name Tad. It's just an excellent name for a pickled fetus, isn't it? Tad. Tad's in the jar now, son, but we're still family.
Stay tuned for more Joe Bob Briggs on Joe Bob's Last Call, coming up next on TNT. And now, Joe Bob's Last Call and Poltergeist on TNT.
And the poor monster boy is stabbed, beat with a crowbar, electrocuted, hung on a meat hook, and squashed between giant gears. That's gotta hurt. Ow. He didn't really get to have his Elephant Man moment, did he? Where you feel sorry for him. I mean, you kind of feel sorry for him when his dad tells him never to call him father and all that. But then he just becomes Jason Voorhees for the rest of the flick. But that's the difference between Toby Hooper and David Lynch, because Toby Hooper doesn't do the touching moment. That's not Toby's style, because... well, because he's a snaggletooth, white-haired, screechy, ugly drool monster who deserves to be cut in half at the waist, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and I want to remind you before we go on that next week we're showing Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, where Kirk feels old and Ricardo Montalban gives him grief. And then we're going to follow that up with 2 episodes of the old Outer Limits show, the ones where Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner are basically auditioning for the Star Trek TV series. Okay, it is Easter now, so it's time to start the 1982 Toby Hooper horror classic, Poltergeist, where, just like the J-Man, the dead are restless. And you know what? I hadn't watched this flick in a long time, and I personally don't think it's that scary anymore. I don't know what it is, but it just didn't do that much for me when I rewatched it. I may be wrong. We may get thousands of letters saying it's still terrifying. But the little girl is great. Heather O'Rourke, she's dead, right? She died after the second one, or the third one. So, and Jo Beth Williams, she's great as the mom trying to figure out how the ghost zombies are getting into the house. And of course, everybody remembers Zelda Rubinstein as the psychic who comes in and acts like a spiritual dustbuster. In fact, everybody remembers her so well, they completely forget that Beatrice Straight is in the movie. Beatrice Straight is actually the head paranormal cleaner. Zelda is just somebody that comes in for the big last scene. But you ask 30 people what Beatrice Straight does in this movie, and they wouldn't know, would they? Anyhow, it's worth watching again just because it's one of those movies that any horror fan needs to be intimately familiar with. So let's take a look at those drive-in totals. We have 30 undead bodies, 1 dead bird, flying toys, killer tree, pork chop maggots, gooey face peeling, and the biggest nightmare of anybody living in California, grody zombies in the pool clogging the filter. 3.5 stars. Check it out, and I'll be checking in with you during the movie, telling you everybody you're watching now in this movie is a dead person. Not everybody. Okay, roll it. Beatrice Straight, she's not dead, is she? She's old, but she's not dead. No. Zelda Rubinstein, she's not dead. But teenage daughter, dead or alive? I think she's, yeah. They were dropping like flies on this picture. I get them mixed up, but I'll find out for you. Like to put you in the Easter mood.